Hi everybody, I'm Steve from the Habra Music Center, and all this month we're celebrating International Guitar Month. We've had a lot of different things going on this month, and tonight we have a very special event in which we brought a live musician in who's going to share some information. This is all given to us from Peavey Electronics. I'm going to bring up Jerry, and he's going to introduce our guest this evening, and we're going to have a great time. Also, we're going to have some questions, so anybody that has questions,
join in with Habra. They've been a Peavey dealer for many years, committed dealer. And I'd like to introduce a Peavey artist affiliated with us, Jona Weinhofen from I Killed the Prom Queen.
Okay, so for anyone who doesn't know me, my name's Jona Weinhofen. I play guitar for an Australian band called I Killed the Prom Queen. We've been around since around 2000. I started that band out of high school. I was about 17 years old, been playing guitar at the time for about 5 years, listening to just a lot of kind of local bands, a little bit of heavy metal stuff, a little bit of hardcore, a little bit of punk rock. And yeah, we just a couple of kids from South Australia got together to jam out and start a band. And just as fortune would have it, we ended up being able to do some really cool things with the band. We recorded a couple of albums, started touring locally in Australia, and then we got some international notoriety, recorded another album over in Sweden at a really cool metal studio called Studio Fredman. And they were recording a lot of my favorite bands at the time, In Flames, Soilwork, Dark Tranquility, some stuff like that. So yeah, we put out a couple records and went off touring overseas. And after about 7 years of touring with I Killed the Prom Queen, we decided to take a little break for personal reasons, and I got an offer to join an American band called Bleeding Through. And these guys were like one of the bands that I looked up to quite some time. They were doing really cool stuff, playing Vans Warped Tour, playing Ozfest, doing all these crazy international tours. So yeah, I joined them. I moved over here to Southern California, which is where I'm based now. I spent 2 years in that band, recorded a great album with them called Declaration, and then I felt it was my time to kind of move on And I ended up getting a really cool opportunity to join a British band called Bring Me the Horizon. Most of you are probably familiar with that band, and they were definitely, my 3 years with Bring Me the Horizon were pretty responsible for boosting my notoriety as a musician. Recorded a couple of albums with them. One was called There Is a Hell. It has a really long title, but I'm just going to leave it at There Is a Hell. And the other one was called Sempiternal. So yeah, I did, again, some really, really awesome stuff with Bring Me the Horizon. Studio albums, touring with amazing bands, playing the biggest festivals I've ever seen to 30, 40,000 people across Germany, Europe, the UK. I went to South America with Bring Me for the first time, to Canada, Japan, Southeast Asia, Australia. I mean, in my touring career, I've been just about all around the world. So I guess the point of telling you all this is, if you don't know who I am, that's a little bit about some stuff that I've done, and also just to give you guys a bit of, hopefully, inspiration, like being a guy that grew up in Adelaide, South Australia, I never would have expected to be able to tour the world, have awesome endorsements like Peavey, literally be paid to do what I love and what I'm passionate about. And so, yeah, it's, just when you're starting out, or you're starting at the very beginning, just make sure you dream big, and just always keep working at it. I was always super passionate about music right from when I was 12, 13 years old, playing every day in my best buddy's garage. We would teach each other stuff, we'd go to lessons together, and yeah, the point is, look where I am now. I've toured the world in all these awesome bands. I've done really cool stuff, and yeah, I'll leave it at that. But I'm going to play you guys a couple songs from I Killed the Prom Queen Now, a couple of songs from our 2013 or 14 album called Beloved, and then probably a couple of songs from the record before that, which was Music for the Recently Deceased, came out in 2006. And then after that, I'll talk to you a little bit about my guitar and my setup and my amplifier over here, and then we can have some question time, I guess. Sound good? So the first song I'm going to play is called 31 and 7s. I feel like I should tell a little cool story about each song before I play it. And this particular song was actually the last track to kind of come together on the record. We had it maybe 3/4 finished. We were in the studio, like already recorded most of the album, and we just hadn't finished the song. And it was just kind of like one missing piece of the puzzle. And we ended up bringing it together kind of last minute, and the song came together really cool. But the opening riff, the lead melody, was a riff that just kind of came to me. It was like 3 in the morning, I think. I was having difficulty sleeping, and I was, kind of in and out of sleep. And for some reason, I'm always really creative at that time of day, 3, 4 in the morning. It's insane. And yeah, this melody just kind of popped into my head, and I decided to get up out of bed and write it down. And you know what's cool? When you have an idea for a riff and you try to play it and you can't physically play the riff that you thought of. So this was kind of one of those for me. It's not the most technical riff, but it's just a little tricky. before we go on, I just want to let you guys know I'm playing the Peavey Invective amp. I've had this amp for a little while now. It's not the amp that I started out playing. I actually started out with Peavey's 5150 model, going way, way, way back, the Eddie Van Halen series. And it's just really nice to see such a rad evolution, you know, from that amp to the Invective, all the cool features that it has, which we'll get a little bit into Soilwork later on. Yeah, so Soilwork's always been a really huge influence on me as a guitar player and on all my bands that I've been in. And yeah, we actually asked Bjorn to come in and kind of do some vocal production work with us. He lived pretty close to the studio, and he ended up singing on a track, which to me was like super awesome. One of the heavier songs, I guess. Has some really cool heavy riffs in it. And the lead for this one I came up with in the studio, the opening lead. We hadn't written anything for it, we just had this kind of breakdown pattern in the beginning. And we knew we wanted to put something there, and we just didn't have it. And I'm pretty sure from memory, the riff that we the question was, when I'm writing these songs, do I start with the lead, or do we start with the rhythm? And
Yeah,
have the
because
lead?
they're intertwined, and I'm wondering how you put that song together.
Yeah, I mean, it varies kind of song to song.
Yeah.
So, for example, the song I played earlier, 31 and 7s, and I talked about having that lead that I came up with in the middle of the night while I was half asleep. So that was just a lead that came on its own, and then I had to add the rhythm section to that, and then that ended up being kind of the foundation for the chorus of the song.
So everything revolves around that starting point, is what you're saying. The song itself.
But then on the flip side, sometimes I'll come up with an entire song that's all rhythm. It's all the heavy riffs, and it's some of those kind of melodic bridges or choruses, and then it needs leads. It needs something with some delay and reverb on top, or something more technical, or it just depends what the song calls for. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm a drummer, and so I can. It's like you're playing the drums along
there you go.
on the guitar.
Actually, I've got one of these songs. I wasn't going to play it. I'll play at the beginning of it. It's a breakdown pattern, so it's just kind of like an open kind of chucking sounding riff. But it was our drummer that wrote it.
Oh,
man! I was like, oh, this is really cool drum thing. So cool. So just to give you an idea, he had that cool, this fill thing, and it had this rhythmic pattern, and we took that.
Yeah, and the tone of your guitar on the bottom, man, it's just like a bass drum.
Thanks. It's one thing I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about, actually, was just finding that right tone for a guitarist can be tricky, because when you're playing by yourself in your bedroom, you want your guitar amp to be the heaviest thing you've ever heard.
Yeah.
You don't have a whole band backing you up. You're playing, through your iPod or your iPhone or whatever, your aux cord, and you want to find that really super heavy sound. And so that's how I began. But then as you start to tour and play live, you realize how important it is for your tone as a guitar player to fit into the mix. And sometimes that means cutting through the mix, especially with some lead parts. Because if you have like all bass, no mid, little bit of treble, a presence, might sound killer in your bedroom at home, but as soon as you get up on stage, the mix is going to be like, can't hear your guitar, bro. It's just lost in the sea of
Like
bass drum and bass.
You can strut your part a little bit, right?
Yeah, for sure. And so I've had times where I'm like, oh, this is the best tone I've ever came up with. This is amazing. And the sound guy's like, get rid of the bottom man, all mids, and I'm like, why, are you crazy? But it's it's because they needed to cut through, and that's why it's important that you guys have a versatile amp that has those different tonalities. And I mean, the Invective has some resonance, presence settings. It has an overdrive setting.
Sorry.
That's okay. The song's called "Sharks in Your Mouth." The song meaning, the song name doesn't really have anything to do with the song itself. We came up with the track title because our drummer at the time had a little nephew, and he thought he had these magical powers where he could make things that would destroy you appear in your mouth, and one of them was sharks. So he would say, "Sharks in your mouth," and imaginarily you have sharks appear in your mouth. But yeah, this was one of the songs that really kind of propelled I Killed the Prom Queen's career. I think a lot of people heard this. This song, we recorded it in 2005. It came out in 2006. So, there was some cool bands definitely doing some cool stuff. We were listening to a little bit of Killswitch Engage and some In Flames and some weird stuff. But I think for an Australian band, We've basically played this tuning, I think, since every release except our first album, which was I can't remember what I talked to you guys about. But yeah, drop beat tuning I find gives you that kind of low heaviness, but without getting too flappy. I know a lot of bands are doing way lower tunings these days and doing it really well. But yeah, it never quite felt right to me. I like that tightness of the strings. So yeah, B was kind of allows us to keep that clarity of the notation and the riffs, but you still get a bit more heaviness than your E standard. And this guitar I have, it's basically a 12 to 56 set of strings. I use Ernie Ball strings, but this bottom string here, I have a 70 gauge on. And these guys were like, what the hell are you doing? Yeah, the reason for that, as I was telling them earlier, so during my time in Bring Me the Horizon, we were experimenting with different tunings, and we were playing a couple of songs we played in C standard, and then a couple of songs we were playing in drop A sharp, and then there was a few songs where we were tuning this deep string all the way down to G, so you had this kind of octave, instead of a bar chord, it was an octave chord. It sounded ludicrous. They wrote some cool stuff in that tuning. So we needed essentially a string that would be able to handle all three of those tunings. So not too thick that when you tune up to C, it's just going to pop, and not too thin that when you go down to G, it's just going to sound like a flat soccer ball being kicked around. So I settled on the 70 gauge. The other guitar player in Bring Me, his name is Lee Malia, and he preferred an 80 gauge, so he actually went thicker.
Wow.
And it just, in a drop tuning, barring, or even just a standard tuning, playing that bar and feeling the thickness difference between it's an 80 and a 44, it's literally twice as thick. So I couldn't hang with that. It felt too weird for me. I was like, oh, what's this bass string doing on here? So yeah, I settled on the 70. It still worked for me with those tunings, but then I just got used to the feel. And then when I Killed the Prom Queen, went back to record again, I was like, I'm gonna try these strings in drop B, and I've kind of stuck with it ever since. It's probably the kind of feel that I would give my guitar to someone else, and they'd be like, "This feels insane. What do you like? It's so tight. Like, how can you play like this?" But I'm kind of used to it, and it's just, yeah, I'm easily pleased, I guess. We got a question on the screen. Okay.
Michael Rivera Jr. wants to know what it's like performing for thousands of people.
What is it like performing for thousands of people? It's definitely one of the most awesome things I've ever done. I think the biggest crowd I ever played to was Sonosphere UK Festival. It was 2011 or 10, and it was about 40,000 people. I also played a huge festival in Germany called Rock am Ring, and that was about 40,000 as well. That was with Bring Me the Horizon. There's videos of that on YouTube. But it's strange when it gets to be that big of a show. It's almost like there's a kind of a weird disconnect between you and the crowd. So, you step out on the stage, and the front row is actually like 50 feet away from you because you've got security and amps and all sorts of stuff in between you. So I find that I personally get more nervous, I guess, playing to smaller crowds. Like right now, playing to you guys here, I'm shitting myself. And same with intimate kind of like punk rock style shows, 200, 400 capacity venues. Those, they're a different feeling altogether because you have people like right there. Literally, people are sweating so far away, spitting on you, like big stuff and realm. And then my parents are over in the corner watching, and I'm like, oh, I don't know, I can get away with it.
Michael says you rock.
Yeah, thank you.
And then Brandon wants to know what is the fastest lick you can play.
I'm not that fast. I played it before, probably the Calvert Street riffs. I might play a song in a little bit called Memento Vivere, and when I was practicing that song, you realize that you haven't practiced in a while when you're like struggling to keep up with your own song. So I guess I'll give it a crack for you guys, but don't judge me. Any other questions?
Let's That's it for right now.
I don't want to sound cocky, but it's not that when I was starting out, I guess my success as a musician kind of happened in like tiers almost, like in levels, you know. So when I started my band, our goal was to play local shows. Like, we got to play this local venue with these local bands that are just like our idols at the time. You know, I'm a 16, 17-year-old kid, and that was our goal. And we set that goal, and then we reached it in, say, a year's time. And I was like, awesome, we did it. Let's go bigger. What do we do next? Oh, there's awesome bands in Melbourne. It's an 8-hour drive away. It's the nearest big city. Let's try and get book shows there. And we just kind of kept doing that until I just kept kind of conquering these goals. So doubts, I don't know. I guess there was a point where I realized that I wasn't just a guy in a band and I was a full-time musician. And I don't really remember where that point was. You know, it was just like, this is all we want to do. All we want to do is play music. We just want to play live music, record music, put out records, play for our friends, go on tour. Going on tour is like half the fun of being a musician. It's amazing. And so, yeah, like, there wasn't really a point where I thought to myself, I'm going to have a career as a professional guitar player in a band, and I'm going to get signed, and I'm going to go on tour. It's kind of, I guess I didn't set those expectations or set the bar too high, and maybe that helped me not have to have doubts, or, you know, kept everything a little bit more accessible maybe. I know it's probably way different these days, you know, with social media and with just the way the music business works. And I've heard of bands who are signed and booking shows and whatnot, and they've never even played a show before, you know, like they put out a song on YouTube and bam, it's huge, and they haven't even like rehearsed together properly as a band or whatnot. I think that's rare, but, you know, that's just an example. So maybe the landscape's a little different, but I think we just kind of kept, it was always like a fun thing to us, and everything else that happened on top of that was a bonus. So when we actually started getting paid for shows, that's a bonus. Yeah. We started selling t-shirts, cool, we get to play music for our friends and go on tour, and people are buying our merchandise and wearing it. So, you know, it just, setting the bar little bit by little bit, I think, helped us maybe avoid disappointment, and kept everything feeling like it was more attainable, rather than starting in my garage and going, one day I want to sign to a major label and I'm going to play a festival with 40,000 people. Maybe that's important for other people to have that, you know, that ultra high goal.
Band Soilwork. Their former guitar players, Peter Witches and Ola Frenning, kind of two of my guitar idols when it comes to more like lead work. They also have really amazing rhythm riffs underneath their solos, and that was one thing I was like, okay, that just makes the solo so much cooler, rather than just playing bar chords. They had these really interesting riffs that could have been a focus of the song on their own, but they had a cool lead at the top too. So this solo is a little bit in the vein of those guys, and this song also took like a year for us to write. We kind of like had we started with one riff, and then the other guitar player in I Killed the Prom Queen, Kevin, ended up kind of using that riff in his other band, and I was like, no, I wanted that riff. So we kind of changed it a little bit, it evolved, and
has to supersede almost everything. And then I think you got to know that there's going to be sacrifice to do with being a touring musician, and that can mean different things for different people. So for me, I gotta have a lot of noise to drown out my horrible.
The low, being here, the lower mids really bite through and cut through.
Yeah.
It really sounds good.
That's, you know, this, you're gonna hear this thing on stage, no matter where you are or how big that venue is. And then, let's see if I get this one right. So for my leads, which I have a couple of those, or my solos rather, it's just the amps gain, the amps overdrive, and tiny bit of delay on there. And then that super wet, noisy reverb lead channel. That's pretty much all I need. Probably one of the more like simple songs I guess we've written, has a bit more of a structure, lots of choruses, lots of singing. I'm not going to sing for you guys. I've sang this song way too many times. But this is a cool song. This is another one of those songs from our second album, Music for the Recently Deceased, which kind of propelled us. This song actually got some radio play, which in Australia at the time, 2006, was unheard of for any heavy band, metal band, hardcore band, punk band, whatever. They weren't getting played on the radio stations, and someone decided to play this. Thank you to whoever that was. But yeah, it's got some groovy riffs, and I'm going to stop talking and play it for you.
International Guitar Month here at the Habra Prom Music Centers. I want to thank Peavey. Thank you very much for bringing this great guy out. Fantastic. Yeah, we'll have these amps on special all month long. Because that's a great amp. That sounds fantastic. Of course, you got to be able to play like this guy. It does make a little bit of a difference. But it'll help you. It'll help you. We're going to be giving away a Peavey VYPYR all month. You just come on in, register. At the end of the month, we're going to do a drawing. We've got some other things going on. And I just really appreciate you coming out. And all the people out there on the Facebook, we appreciated you participating. We're going to be replaying this on YouTube, I believe, right? So you can always come back and look at it and see how you did there, you know. But it was great. We really enjoyed it. A little reminder, tomorrow night, we'll also have a gentleman here, Mark Holcomb, from Periphery. I can't pronounce those things.
You want to see some real playing?
No. So we've got some great players, and we do this every year. It's just to celebrate guitar and all the things guitar. So we've got a lot of specials, and we really enjoy it. Come back and see us again, okay? Bye-bye.
All right.
Shut up!